Well, Jason got in Aberration. I've taken off the plastic and read the manual. And yeah, I got really excited. I don't remember ever seeing this game on Kickstarter, but Jason said it, and I looked it up and I read through the book. This is a tower defense game of survival horror, I guess, or game of horror and survival, sure. The last tower defense games that we've played, I forgot what it was. It had something with witches, and I sold it as soon as I got done playing it at the store I bought it that day because it's that god-awful. And I still feel bad about this. I convinced Jason to go get, I think it was Kingdom Rush, and yeah, that was terrible. We never played that again. So I was a little skeptical about how this is going to go. As far as this being a tower defense game, it's kind of a tower defense game, but not really. But we'll get into that. But we have the all-in, so we have the core box. I gotta check if this is going to be the retail version. I don't know what is a Kickstarter exclusive, so I'll label that later. The game came with sleeves that Jason doesn't remember ordering on the all-in. We have these extra wooden tokens. We have a dice tower that he doesn't really care about, so I guess we're just going to add that to the 2025 giveaway. A dice tray, which...
You can't tell through the plastic wrap. Oh, you kind of can. It does have an embossment.
Yeah, it's really hard to see, but... I don't know. We have the deluxe miniature sets that are just the miniatures to replace the paper standees in this. And then we have 2 expansions. These spellcaster expansions, while reading the rulebook, this is mentioned in the main rulebook. And I understand it from a production standpoint why you do that, but I also kind of feel like it's a little bit baity because the characters in the core box don't have access to magic spells. So they advertise them conveniently on the last page. So if you really want these guys now and you want to play mages, you gotta buy this. And then the Honk of Doom expansion, which is just a turkey or chicken or a goose from hell. It's a hydra and some other stuff. But I was looking at how many enemies it really adds. It just adds 1 like boss monster and 3 regular mini enemies. So kind of curious. It seems gimmicky, but we'll see. The spellcasters, you get 4 guys. But we get 4 characters and access to spells and relics and all that other fancy stuff. And then the miniature set, you actually get some really nice minis. But we'll open all that in time. This picture does not do it justice. This is actually a very big map. We have our rulebook, and like I said, I looked through it, read it. It seems pretty straightforward. It did have some questionings, but I think it actually has a lot more to do with the scenario book. But this is the thing about the expansion. They put the expansion rules on the last, and it's pretty much to get you to be like, oh, you want to play spells? Buy these characters. A little weird. We have our glossary terms on the back, because we're going to be needing those a lot. I like that. We do not have an index, but we do have a full component list, which is very good, because that's kind of helpful. And it reads pretty straightforward. So I think the book's pretty decent for what it is. The scenario book, flipped through it really fast, but it seems like you kind of need the scenario book for setup. But it also says you can do customizing stuff, so I'll have to read that a little bit more. These tokens, as you can see, we got some blood drops, some fire, and whatever these purple things are. They look like the viruses from a cartoon. Not sure, but this has a little recessed tab. It's always nice. But these are basically the kind of the tower defense elements. They're going to be placed on the board. We're going to explore, and they're going to do stuff. As far as wounds, there's going to be people going towards the village, but they're like what they call the shadow, and they're unknowns. The villagers are good. Everything else is bad. This is called corruption. It is a permanent effect that removes the space from the board. Not sure how I feel about it because there's nothing that explains you can get rid of it. It's just kind of a permanent thing, which I'm like, I don't like it when games do permanent things that lock off movement. And then it kind of has an area system, north, east, southwest. Here are the enemy tokens. Well, we got the minis, so we're not going to be using those. No. Here's the purple things, but there seems to be way more. There's like 5 of them in here and more fire. Whatever. This was a very interesting insert. This is a very well-designed insert, and I actually like it. This seems like it's just for that. This arrow thing, not sure what that is, but this arrow also helps lock into the corners of the boards. And it's nice to keep them sliding around. We have 6 of these rings that are double-sided, which adds a lot of variety. I'm not sure if they're the same. I don't think they are. Nope, they're different. You use 4, so it's going to add a lot of variety. You get 12, so you basically have combinations like, I don't know, whatever, math people figure it out. Now, the things that surprised me. I thought we were going to get wood, or paper. We got wood meeples. This game has a mechanic where you are basically drafting tokens out of a bag to do actions. I have a problem when cardboard tokens are put in a cloth bag because they kind of clump together. It's really hard to pull out. I am glad that they did wood. They understood the tactile feeling of that is very important. And they seem very well designed that you can't tell unless you scar them up really bad and mark them. But they do all seem uniform in shape and size. Look at this. We got all the spots to put everything organized and added in. Bravo. The dice. We have our hits. We have doubles, which is what they call a crit. We have our singles, and we have misses. And it's going to work with the monster's attack symbols. I don't remember what... Oh, these are the tracker cubes. And then we have our decks of items, monsters... terrible mutations you can get, and this is one of the few games I've seen where you can get infected multiple times from healing, which seems kind of odd to me. And then we have an item deck. There are things called relics, super powerful items that are optional if you find the game too difficult. And I believe the tower discs are going to go there, but wait, there's more. We have this. Because it is a bag drafting game, we have 4 unique bags. And they're actually a nice bag. The heat treatment on some of this is a little wrinkly, but it's probably going to peel anyways in the future if you play it enough. We have this city board, and this is just a fun thing they put. But you're going to have a little city board. It's going to have stuff, and it's going to be the middle. We have this. I don't know what it's for. We have our rings for a color marker. These are the standee tokens for the cardboard minis that we're not going to use. And here are our characters. You're going to put action discs here for as a hold action, lets you hold and spend it to do abilities. And they have multiple abilities. They don't have to be paired to anything. You can choose this halfling here. He can be a duelist or he can be a captain. They all are unique. Lots of variety. Very cool. Hell, the halfling could be a rogue or a martial artist or a noble. Not sure how that works with halflings, but, you know, what do I know? We have our village board. There are going to be cards laid out, and here's our tracker. Doesn't really say in the manual when I was looking through, but I skimmed it. I didn't see anywhere where it puts where these markers start, but in the scenario book it tells you. I guess maybe that's what those markers are. But you have a village board. You have this monster board, and they're going to mutate and get bigger and bigger. So that's fun. And then we have our ability boards. They are recessed. Very nice. It's going to be filled with the tokens for whatever. Blue is intellect, red is strength, green is speed, and yellow is command. It's a very straightforward system, and then you have this down here as your little health track that continues on when you put this over here. And here's the kind of the weird thing. If you heal and you go back, you don't get it. But if you heal below that and you go forward and go back to that same red marker, you're going to get a mutation again. I was like, wow, that seems kind of rough. And I believe all the ability boards are the same. It's just a color preference. The main thing is how your ending side and your starting side based on your character is. So we have Sasha here. We have this system. And you can see you start, you go across. Oh, it adds a lot of really cool variety. Neat idea. As far as some of the minis go, here's our little halfling rogue. You can kind of see a face. They are made out of good plastic. Little nice touches like the embossing at the bottom. Is there any secret crap under here? No. So overall, there's a lot of really neat ideas in this, and this is way more than I expected because when Jason said tower defense, I was just having post-traumatic stress flashbacks of how bad the tower defense games are when they try to make them from video game to board game. This is a board game. It's built to be a board game. Right there already is 1,000% improvement. Now, as far as it plays, we're going to test it after we get to the rest of the stuff, and we'll give our opinions on it. The spellcasters. Like I said, it seems kind of weird to put these in the main book, but it feels like an ad. Oh look, more things. Here are new character boards. More cards. Hopefully the sleeves that it came with are more than enough for this. Here's an example of the, he looks really cool. He looks like some European Witcher nonsense with all the antlers. And he's holding like a skull grenade or something. Yeah, these guys. Are these? It's 2 characters? And 3 enemies? Werewolves. Okay. It is what it is. We do have a little slot. That's kind of cool. Is there anything else in here? No. Hunk of Doom. I'm not exactly sure why it's... Well, I guess geese are evil. See it again. Just the enemy cards for them and their mutation levels. A 3-headed hissing snake duck. And then the mother hydra of them, the 5-headed goose of doom. I'm not sure if this is like a holiday myth or something. I don't get it. And nothing there. I'm a little disappointed they didn't color the inside of the cardboard because I like that. Nice touches. And now we have the miniatures to make up for all the paper inserts that we threw away. Let's check out some cool stuff. We have a tree. It is a drooling tree stump. Odd. I don't actually know that in folklore. But they are aberrations. Razorback from something. And pocket racks. A bear with the Gorgon head from Stranger Things. Now here are that thing from The Witcher, but has more arms. This disgusting horn of plenty. Dogs, reindeer, man bats, human mutants, spiders, because everyone does spiders, and the Orphan of Kos. Yeah, the quality is actually really good. The components are really well done. The fact that they put wood. How much did you pay for this?
This was $290 with the shipping cost. So $241 was the all-in price, and then shipping added another like $50.
Seems a little high, but the components are pretty good. For the usual nonsense that I like to do, because it's a big part of how I think board games should be designed, I have to say Aberration did a very good job. We'll start with the small stuff first, because that's anticlimactic. The Spellcaster expansion. We were able to sleeve all the cards, and they fit perfectly sleeved. They're not exactly the way I like it, but it works. This is a storage tray for the cardboard cutouts that we don't need, because it obviously comes with minis. But I get if you don't have the minis, you kind of want some, consistency. The honking geese of doom, or whatever these things are. They fit. That worked out really well. The minis don't have any cards. I don't know why I even grabbed that box, but for consistency's sake. Now, the big box. They gave us roughly 30 extra sleeves, which is always good. Again, this key holding these boards actually helps, and it's likely because of the way the cards are. Yes, they're sleeve cards, they have air, they push up, but they fit really well. One thing I didn't show in the beginning, I forgot to mention, they do have a little mark that tells you where the tokens go. These triangle tokens fit in this slot. It's kind of weird. They only fit in this direction. I tried doing it the other direction. They don't fit well. So take that for what it is. We took the wooden tokens, added them, but every slot, there is a little icon that tells you what belongs there. Makes organization really easy and nice. We removed the plastic bases because, again, we have plastic minis. And then I thought it was kind of weird was this. This is a first player token. It fits in this little circle. Kind of odd. A little bit difficult to get out. Not sure why. And then I thought this was a piece of junk, but it's a locking token for the ring. But yeah, really neat system. And honestly, this is a really well done insert. I'm not sure how I feel about this, but you kind of need this like the candy tray to give components. It's a little big for how much space it takes up on the table. It would have been better if you could break it up into two pieces and slide it over so you could have it lengthwise. But overall, it holds together. It's pretty sturdy. This is a very good system. And, most game developers, as I've constantly called out all the time, crying about it and complaining, because I like my games to be able to be set up, played, and stored nicely. This does a very good job. Now, that being said, you're not going to be able to store it face up very well without enough pressure holding everything down. And these rulebooks aren't enough to keep this pushed down on the lid. So you're going to have stuff flying around. That kind of sucks. I know I didn't put these back, but we're going to play the game. But yeah, Aberration. Good design. Very good design. Box is pretty sturdy. A little disappointing that there's no art. As far as the expansion things, as Jason's pointed out, we can't put the expansions in the box, but that's pretty normal. I'm not too hung up about it. The question really came out to, I don't want to test this out. We could punch out all the enemy tokens and put them in here and see if that will help. But there's no point because we have everything. But alright, now we'll go get to gameplay and talk about how the game works. Welcome back, and now we're doing the review for Aberration. Really interesting but weird game, and it suffers from an unfairness. The worker placement system in this game is not exactly the way that I thought worker placement would work. You have X amount of these villagers, and as a action, one of the actions you can do, you can place them on location to get that bonus and they do stuff. And there's places that are out on the map that you can go to if you unlock them, and you'll be able to do that. That is the worker placement part of the game. It's neat. The other part of the game comes down to your figures are going to be guarding parts of the road. They'll go to locations with monsters, and they will fight them. And the goal is not to kill the monsters, really. That is only on the first introductory mission, which we found super easy. And this is where we got a little bit concerned about how the game works. The game is based on tower defense. We have these horde tokens. They're slowly going to migrate over there. If they go into a spot with a fire token, it will reveal. And then what happens is it's going to have you deploy the monster, and that will be a level 5 monster, which is really bad. And then it does this. This is the problem I have with the game. It's these influence tokens. These tokens are terrible. What they do is they're going to go to the highest number spot per a map sector. And this is 4 sectors, north, east, southwest. I just did put out the tokens. And when it's out there, it's going to do, basically, it's going to turn off that area. Monsters will now deploy from the next highest number. If this spawns first, and there's multiple monsters, it's going to push all the other monsters out. If you're in the space, it deals damage to you. There's really no way to get rid of this influence, and this is what I have the problem with the game. There is a caveat that you can put out fire tokens, and if an influence token and a fire token are at the same spot when an influence token spawns, you remove both tokens. Okay, that's a way to slow down the influence. The problem with the fire tokens is, if there's not enough enemy figures on the board when they're revealed, it activates all of them in play, and it basically gives them free actions. And you have to be strategic about how you put out those fire tokens, but the game starts off, if you can see these little dots, that's what's already got to start on when the round begins. Same with the fire. These marks, they already start. And with that, it can lead to some really crazy chaos. The game swings a lot. Your character system is a very interesting system. We basically have who your character is, their special ability, and a player board. This is a neat system. You have different abilities, different combos that you can put together, change their abilities. They have different setups, which is really neat. A lot of interactions here. Okay, the review of Aberration. Aberration is a tower defense game that has some worker placement. It's a bag builder. And it has a lot of neat ideas with how the monsters upgrade and escalate. The idea is to beat the fear track, and when this fills up to the max, you lose by surviving. As far as survival goes, it's a little bit wonky. But as soon as you hit 15, you win. And the system is basically based on liberating these camps, they're going to have a cost up there. This has a strength and a yellow token. As soon as you liberate it, it becomes open. You can place workers. You also gain 1 survival, which goes up on this track. You have these boards that have shortcut paths that can only be used by your heroes. And then you have these little tower icons that associate to that. If these ever get corrupted, you start losing. And it seems like a really neat system because you have a pool of workers in the village that you can just dump on systems to do their abilities. I kind of wish there was something easier, but it's on reference cards. But the concept is really simple. You got these tokens, which are called shadows. And when you start the game, they are going to spawn on the board by their icons. Same with fire. And how it works is, during their phase, they're going to move 1 space, starting with the lowest number. If they're in a spot with fire, they're revealed, and they'll do whatever. This is a villager, so that's good. And then in that same row, the next one will go. And if that's revealed, depending on player count, they're going to have some abilities and triggers that do some weird stuff. But so far, that all sounds great. You fight by drawing your tokens out of your bag. This is what your board looks like. You have your character board, and you have a class board. This is a really cool system. It allows you to take a character and mix whatever their specialties are, and they have different setups. They'll give you different starting tokens where you can deploy locations or put stuff out, which is really helpful. And it gives a lot of variety and play abilities. The health track system down here is a neat system because of this. Once it crosses the border, it can't go below that threshold. When you take damage, you just slide up. If you ever go to these red spots, you get what's called a mutation. They're kind of bad, but kind of good. More kind of bad. And then it does a weird thing with how health works. If you heal and you go back on the red, it doesn't affect you. But it's only when you go forward and land, when you move to the right, you get another transformation. So if you're stuck like constantly healing 1 back and you take a wound, you can get a bunch of transformations, and it's really weird. This combat system is neat because of how you take your chits out of your bag, and everything is just laid out on the ability board. It tells you to move 1 action chip from your ability board, which you just pick which one. You instantly get that, and the majority of them are items. You throw it in the bag, and then you draw up to your intellect value, and it's always 3 because these are all the same. And whatever you draw in the bag, you use to spend on actions. And they're all color-coded on your class card. So for the captain here, we have this basically Trivia Pursuit thing. But this is one of the few ones where these black tokens, when you draw them, you take a damage. But it can't be spent to do this ability, or the mutation cards, when they come into play, they'll have effects. Some of them will say spend a black token on it. But depending on what you do, you can do a bunch of really cool stuff out of it. And then you have the ability, all the characters have the ability to hold 1 action token. If you don't want to spend it, you can save it for a later turn, so you end up getting more actions. There is some strategy with that. Hasn't been super helpful from what I've seen. Every character has a special ability. Sasha's very generic. She has this, where she holds an extra. Other characters have put a token here to do some special actions. And you just continue around, and you do that until it gets to the monster phase. And, like I said, if the monsters move into your space, you reveal them, and you fight them. And fighting them is literally doing your ability, and sometimes it will tell you, roll dice equal to your, or deal damage equal to the printed number on your board. The monsters work the same way. There is a market row for the monster cards. And here's just a generic example of this elk. We have 1 through 6, and these will mutate and become progressively harder. So the level 1 elk here is just 1 attack, which means it's going to roll 1 attack die. It has 4 health. We got to do 4 damage to kill it. But when it mutates, it's now 2 attack and 5 health. That's level 2. Level 3, it's 3 and 6. 4, 5 and 7. 5, 5 and 9. And it mutates to level 6, 6 and 10. It's a neat idea, and I find really cool, and I like it. I like the fact that we liberate the camps, and we're trying to protect the village. But I have a weird sinking suspicion of how this game works, because we've played this so many times now. And honestly, this is the second scenario from the tutorial scenario we played. The tutorial scenario gives you survival points for actually killing monsters. The actual first time you play the game on the real way, you have to do these goals on the survival cards, and only one of these can exist out in play at a time. As soon as it's completed, you discard it, draw another one. When you complete the goal, you get a survival point. And that doesn't seem too bad. But some of these are very difficult to pull off. And the ways you can get rid of it is you can spend a blue token, because it's on this spot, to draw a new objective card. Or there's an item, and items are pretty much what swing the game in your favor. Discard and get a new objective. But the majority of them objectives give you only 1 point. I believe it's 19 objective cards, 6 out of 19, so about a third, give you 2 points. But these are also very difficult to pull off. And this is where I'm having an issue with the game, is the balance. This game can be extremely swingy because the balancing feels bad. And I say feels bad as in unfair. And it has to do with this thing called influence. These tokens, about a third of these automatically put influence into play, which are these fun triangles. These triangles suck. When they're put on a spot, when you reveal a token and it's put on a spot, if there's a bunch of them too, so if you reveal that, you're going to put out a level 5 monster, and then it pushes all the other monsters forward, including the monster that spawned. Now these monsters will activate, and it basically just accelerates how fast they go. And that's not a problem usually. The problem is you can't remove influence from the board. There's nothing I've seen in the game. It says influence can't be removed. There is a slight caveat to that, and I'll get to. But influence is terrible because if you reveal another chit that has influence, okay, well, crap. And this can happen. This has happened to us so many times that this is where it feels unfair. Eventually, if a board is filled with influence, you lose. There's nothing you can do about it. You just lose. And I'm like, okay, that friggin' sucks. The caveat to influence tokens is if you have fire tokens. If an influence token is placed on a fire token location, the fire token's removed, the influence token's removed, and that kind of holds it off. Great. Except if there's a bunch of monsters coming, and they may or may not have influence. So that's kind of a problem I have, because this has happened to us a few times. Now you'd be thinking, well, you know, the solution's easy, dump a bunch of fire tokens. And that's what we also tried to counteract the influence. We ran into a problem of acceleration. There's only 3 copies of each monster that could be out in play. And if you happen to reveal a bunch of chips and nothing is there from the pool to grab, you will now just instantly spawn something that attacks your base. Because all those monsters in play are activated. They're, example, 3 of those mutant elks. If there's already 3 in play and it tells you to put a mutant elk in play, instead they will activate. They'll either attack or they'll go start moving towards the fort. Now hitting the fort, if it is a shadow token, which are what these are called, you can't attack these. You have to reveal them through special abilities, go into their location, well, let me rephrase that, stopping in their location, not going to their location. You can go through them, but if you stop, they're flipped. And now you're stuck, and if it says influence like this, there's just a lot of influence. And I was like, okay, well, maybe we just need to manage the tokens a little better, but there's a few cards that kind of help you some abilities. And I was like, alright. But that's another side effect of the game. Because at the end of when the shadow tokens move, the monsters on the board attack, and they do their thing, you're going to draw a Great Beast card. This is your timer also. The scenario says 5. We barely survived. The one time we won, I swear it's luck. What these do is they're going to upgrade whatever creature is in the level. For example, we have this board, and this is a creature mutation board. You're going to place 3 regular creatures, and then the elite creatures go in 4 and 5. It's going to tell you at level 3, they're going to go up 1 level. Which, not a problem. Then it's going to give you a punishment, usually. It's going to tell, like this one says, each player is going to take a transformation chip, which are the black chips, which aren't bad unless you draw them, but they can be good. And then it's going to tell you spawn shadows equal number of heroes from the direction, starting from north. This would be north, heroes plus 1. And this is where we're like, well, maybe this scales better with 2 people. No. And I bring that up because of how many cards there are that aren't +1. Now it's 2, 3s, and then we have these really terrible mutation cards that probably shouldn't exist. You're always around. This just accelerates all that stuff. If it hits a fire token, it just adds extra actions because the spawn pool is so small. I'm just like, that doesn't feel right. So I counted out the breakdown of what gives influence just from the tokens, and yeah, it's literally like a third of them. It sucks. It is very unfair because of how this spawns. Now, if you want to make the game a little bit easier on yourself and you think you can just take these number of heroes +1, there's 17 of these cards. 8 of them automatically place influence on the board when it's revealed. It's not a great feeling. These spawn 2+ heroes, there's 7 of them. Luckily, they don't add influence. The 3/3 cards don't add influence, but they do have some pretty jank mechanics. And then these cards that just spawn equal to the number of heroes in play, this one card is god-awful. It spawns influence at every location, every map. It's just too much because influence is so hard to control in this game. A third of this monster deck just dumps influence. A third of these tokens dump influence. And you're like, well, that doesn't seem too bad. Well, let's get to these mutations. We have some of these mutations, there are 4 of them, that have no negative effect as printed at the bottom. And then we have a bunch of them that put transformation chips, which isn't a problem. 4 of those, that's not a problem either. The problem comes to fear. That fear track that you guys might have forgot about because it's not showing. Depending on your mission or what you're playing, that fear track goes up really fast and ramps. There's 20 transformation cards. 12 of them give fear. And this is where it just gets crazy and starts ramping and it gets really bad. Because usually you're going to start on your player count around 10. It's really hard to manage that fear because it never goes down. The custom part that they said in the manual, which I thought was odd. You can't build your own custom scenario. What it's telling you is you can modify some of the numbers for the scenario and cards. And it tells you to use the relic cards. I didn't notice that the relic cards really helped that much because, again, you had to put a chit on it. And this is the other problem, is if the game accelerates that fast against you, how do you get more chits? You take your tokens, but you can only take 1 a turn. So by turn 3, okay, now you can take 4. Yeah, that's not great. It seems very slow, and I agree that it doesn't seem fast enough for you to actually maintain a healthy ecosystem. If the game's going to accelerate and basically cheat this much, unless you got great RNG and we got lucky, it worked out in our favor, and we barely won it. And it wasn't a satisfying win. It wasn't like we worked hard for a payoff. It was just a luck draw thing. The fact that it only lets you take 1 at the start of your turn slows the system down. The timer's 5 turns. So at most you can only get 5. Granted, if you do all of it, sure, you clear out 1 row. But that restricts a lot of the stuff you can do. It feels very off-paced. I don't like this influence system. It's really awful, I think, to have a system of something this horrendous. The fire tokens, I don't like how there's not enough monster minis because they just accelerate. If there's not enough on the board, they just all attack. And I'm like, okay, well, that kind of sucks. The idea for the characters being different and then their abilities being different, that is a really cool idea. This system is fine. I don't mind doing this and getting item cards and doing it. It's just slow. The fact that it is a pathing system that can go through, but it's like they didn't really work to screw you over. It wasn't like, oh, if they do this, if we don't stop them, they're going to do this. Everything is an unknown. And that's kind of the problem with it. When you're trying to plan a defense, especially a tower defense game, you don't get that knowledge to know what you're fighting or what you're trying to do. I mean, you know what you're fighting, but you don't know what the tokens are when they reveal and what they're going to interact with. You don't know exactly what shits you're going to draw out of. You can kind of plan it. but I kind of don't like staring at my bag and looking at it and checking every 10 seconds, being like, oh, I know what I'm going to draw. I kind of find that a little cheaty. The items are actually well done in the game. We have these relics, like I said. I don't think they help because all they do is give your character extra actions. None of them have the effects of items, and this is where the items come into play. Items you play during your turn, you get their effect. Okay, cool. But the bottom part's the special one. You can toss a card on any turn to get the effect. It doesn't have to be for you, it could be for another player. And there's 4 effects. Luck, reroll any number of dice, or lucky, reroll any number of dice. So if another player whiffed, you can make them reroll and hope they do some good damage. You have block here, prevent 1 damage, very helpful. You have smite, add 1 damage to an attack, very helpful. And the last one, which is action, current player draws 1 ability chip from their bag, so it's giving them an extra action. The cards for the items are very strong, but the fact that you can react and help each other out by pitching them is also a nice design feature, and I think that's really needed. As far as like how it goes, as you can see, the boards go anywhere between 3 location spaces to 5. There's some boards that have 6. These are double-sided boards. This is a bad design. Okay, we got fire. It's kind of helping with the corruption and the influence and stuff. But again, it's still accelerating. We don't know what direction's going to spawn, what's going to come in. Especially when the spawn cards, you play at 4 players, it's going to say player count plus 3. Well, if it tells you to spawn here, and it starts dumping influence, it's going to start accelerating and get really crazy really fast. You just don't feel like you're in a fair fight. And maybe that's the theme of the game, but the balancing seems off. Either they overestimated how bad influence is, or these are the type of people who are like, oh, get good. But getting good in a game of random RNG versus a game of skill is a bad mentality. And this is conflicting, because I like this game. This game has some really nice components. The fact that they make these out of wood. The combat system is very straightforward. It's easy. The different defense towers that you can unlock and place guys at. There's a lot of really cool things, and the game's not complicated either. It's a very simple game. I like that. It's just the fairness of how bad this accelerates, especially since, again, these little tower defense symbols. If influence does reach, I mean, here, you're going to lose the game because it fills up all 3 slots. But if it ever reaches this, you lose this location, and then you also take fear. The scenarios, I was hoping, because it says choose a scenario, and then it says custom scenario, that you could do and stuff. But no. It's literally each scenario, you can change out the monsters. As the Great Beast cards, you can add cards or remove cards. The Villager Survival Track and Fear Track, you can add or subtract to that. And you can add relics. That is the custom scenario. It's just pick a scenario out of the book and fudge some numbers. That's it's not great. I was hoping for a more modular experience, especially at pickup, but we have to follow the layout for the scenarios, and they don't feel well designed. The first scenario is really easy because the objective is kill monsters. Well, if you're killing monsters and you're actually playing the game to kill monsters, it's really easy to advance the survival track. But now you got to do these terrible objectives, and some of them are pretty easy, but some of them are just like, oh, no shadow tokens on the board. So basically, reveal everything or kill everything. That's really hard to do depending on your player count. And this game ramps like crazy, like I said, because of the RNG on what the tokens are. The fact that I can just push things into the fort and hit you, well, there's nothing you can do about it, just seems really bizarre. It's not balanced, is what I'm saying. But as far as speed and balance, nothing you can do can match the speed of the game. If you took 2 of these, maybe it would help, but it might break the game. If you ignore certain influence cards, or influence token things that add influence, especially these shadow tokens, that might be the thing to help. Because influence seems way too strong. If it said, if there's 2 influences revealed on the same tile a turn, don't do that. But it doesn't say that. It just feels very unfair. And right now, Aberration seems like I still want to play it. Like, I really still want to play it. I think the game is good except for that part. The influence token specifically, and that is the part that drives me nuts, is because of how bad these are. If you could remove these, instead of having Preventive Manager putting out fire, and when it spawns and then it removes it, and then you gotta go put fire again, that would actually help make a different setting for the game. But so far, nothing says you can remove them. They just stay on the board. And when it's like this, and you don't have anything to do, and I don't know, where's that terrible? And it reveals that shadow token right here. That's an influence. If you didn't have fire there, you just lose. That's bad. It doesn't feel right. One of our friends is a game designer. He said the same thing. I was like, yeah, it doesn't feel right. This is a mechanical issue with this timer. How these influence tokens work, they just screw you royally because of how fast they can ramp. And I have never seen a game that's just like, oh, this sector gets filled, you lose instantly. It's just kind of odd. Usually there's a way to push it back or hold it off. But not on this. It's just weird. This game has a lot of hard timers. Either the fear track, running out of the monster, the mutation cards, the Great Beast Corruption cards. It just seems very quick. Multiple ways to lose and only one way to win. It's odd. But again, I like the game. I like this game enough that I think with some minor tweaks, just because of the balancing of speed, this could be actually a really fun, good game. It's not super complex. The components are good. It doesn't take too long to set up. It stores well. This is literally going to a restaurant and ordering a ribeye, but for some reason the chef doesn't know how to do medium rare. He just does everything well done. And you're just kind of like, well, why don't you know how to cook a steak? And that's where this is. This is literally a good idea. And it's not that far off from being a good game. But as far as our first impression goes, yeah, this is a lukewarm response. Everything's great about it except for the whole influence system because of how fast the game ramps. But yeah, for $300, it is a lot smaller than most of the Kickstarter games for $300 worth of components. But, you know, they did put the money into the game. I wouldn't say go out and buy it. I'd say definitely play it, test it out. Someone has it, just try it and see how it goes. Because there's a lot of neat mechanics here. The system's neat. These character and class interactions are neat. Having locations that you unlock so you can put workers there and do stuff is really neat. These are all good ideas. But having, you know, a third of these be auto-fails, a third of this being auto-fails that ramp up really high, and a third of these that are like auto-fails, it just doesn't feel right. The fact that you can spawn so many monsters and it just cascades and the reveal effects keep on triggering. In a location like this, you just lose. And if you want to counteract it by putting out a bunch of fire, cool, except now everything's attacking and activating faster, and it's now like all the enemies are getting 2 to 3 extra turns. You just can't make up for that. And that's the problem with the game. Other than that, that's been the first impressions of Aberration. I'm still doing the 2025 giveaway. Check out that video if you want to win some free stuff. Other than that, take care of yourselves, and GG's.